Sweet, awesome. So, today we have on Tristan. Tristan is one of the most talented sales leaders I have honestly ever seen. His content is amazing. I will leave all of his socials down below in the description. And without further ado, my guy, Tristan. So, Tristan, for everyone who doesn't know you, what's your story and how did you really get into sales?
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know me, my name's Tristan Dlabik, and I got into life insurance sales at 18 years old by simply uploading my high school diploma as a resume on different job sites like Indeed. I got an automated email back from an insurance company. I didn't know what life insurance was at that time, and I told my mom I need to drive out to this interview, borrowed her car, and it was like an hour and a half from where I grew up in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. The office was in Gibsonia, Pennsylvania, and everybody there was in their 30s, 40s, and making a couple $100,000 a year. Maseratis in the parking lot. I was dumbfounded because I from 10 until 18 was on I don't know, like the lower class of wealth in society. We had government assistance, food banks, the food stamps, and different things like that. So I was like, whatever they're doing, I want to do it, and I got into life insurance. So I ended up getting my life insurance license, and the rest was kind of just off to the races.
Sweet, awesome, awesome. So, when you've obviously seen kind of a lot of sales reps come into the industry, what's like the biggest mistake that you've seen new sales reps make when coming into the industry?
I think the biggest mistake would be lack of activity and like overcomplicating what they need to do. Everybody wants to be a routine like instapreneur. Everybody's focused on Instagram, social media, and trying to portray something they're not. They want to look like the Wolf of Wall Street, but nobody wants to do the work of like becoming the wolf of whatever industry that they're in. And it really just takes an insane amount of activity. Like that would be the easiest shortcut that I would give to people is you should just work where it would be unreasonable for you to fail.
When you were first starting out, what was like your day to day like for new sales reps, what should their week look like?
I got this from a Cardone book, and I don't know if it was Be Obsessed or Be Average or 10X, one of those books, but he had said something along the lines of if you know what day and time it is and you're broke, you're not working that hard. So I do remember there were times where I literally was delirious. I didn't know what day and time it was. And people like to go on Instagram now and talk about they're working 42-hour days and how hard they're working, but somehow are still broke or somehow still have the ability to be on social media, consuming social media to say the very least, for most of their days. So for me, it was wake up and sell 24/7. All I was doing was prospecting or trying to convince somebody to buy life insurance from me. So if it wasn't that, I really wasn't doing it, or I wasn't interested in doing it.
When you how long, obviously, you're calling, you're knocking on doors, you're selling, you're selling. How long does it usually take for kind of a sales rep to be in a position where they can kind of take a step back and do more high leverage activities such as lead, bring on other reps? Like when are they ready to kind of go to that next level?
So I would classify that as working smarter in regard to like leveling, like because ultimately the game is to make more money, and so
Mhm.
you only have a few resources ultimately you can use to generate more revenue, and I would classify those as time, money, and ego. So I don't think you should prolong it. I think if you were to put Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or we were to take a prompt and plug it into AI and say how would the wealthiest men in the world plug into an industry like insurance, pest, solar, and try to make as much money as possible, it wouldn't be a matter of accolades and how can I look a certain way. It really would be dissecting how can I do this as quickly as possible. The game of money is getting as much money as possible legally and efficiently as again as quickly as possible. So I don't know if there's a certain number. I think immediately when I look back at what I regret the most, it's obviously everything that I know now, I wish I knew then. And I think it's a combination of selling better products, which more so just translates into what would somebody spend more money on, because I don't think I need more people to get me to convince more to convince me to find a higher quality client. If I found a client willing to spend $1 billion, I don't need a billion reps. I would prefer to just have me as the only rep, and now I don't have to share it with anybody. You know what I mean? So it's like now I get as much money, um, spreading through the least amount of people. So now my new approach over the last year has been the most amount of money through the least amount of people. Whereas typically people in sales, you'll see they'll make a couple dollars and it'll be mass recruiting immediately. Hey, everybody, I'm hiring, I'm hiring, I'm hiring. And, I do agree with, figuring out systems and figuring out how can you automate and make your life better. But aside from hiring a dialer, a virtual assistant, or figuring out some type of, automated AI, people love to use these fancy buzzwords of, well, we've got this automated system and this automated that, when in all reality, most of these individuals are broke. And if you really wanted to hit a home run, you would try to find the richest person within your target market, and you would want to sell them. That would be my ideal client. How do I find that guy and find that lookalike audience?
So how would a sales rep find the richest guy in their town?
Yeah, that's as much as I'm laughing about it as if like it's hard, it is really the easiest thing to do, because with really wealthy people, I've always had this kind of notion that I've known, since even being young. Even if you meet a Warren Buffett or somebody that's like a penny pincher and they don't spend any money, wealthy people spend somewhere, whether it's spending into the savings account, whether it's cars, watches, materials, what, like, they spend somewhere. So I'd like find where the money is being spent and then reverse engineer and track backwards to where does all that money source to, and now you find your client. So it's like in Miami, it's just like follow the cars, follow the yachts, follow the jets, and who's the owner, and work your way up and figure out what problem can I solve for those individuals. And with us being in the insurance space, and what made me leave the captive space to go to the brokerage space, is I had spent 7 years in a space that I was only able to sell, for like the audience to understand, like a cheeseburger product. I could only sell to lower class and maybe convince middle class to purchase our product, because it was structured for lower class people.
So for anyone who is really trying to go after these, these bigger guys, like, do you see a lot of reps make the mistake of, oh, I want to, sell you now without adding value, or how do they kind of position themselves as not as a sales rep, but someone who can really go in there and add value, and who really wants the best for these, higher ticket, wealthier clients?
you know when it comes to wealth, it's obviously very proportional in regard to how do you classify wealth, because I would look at somebody trying to sell me something that makes a fraction of what I make, would look at me as extremely wealthy. And what I like and appreciate, and what I would imagine from myself being on the other side of that and being a fraction worth of other individuals I've spoken to and I've tried to, or I have sold them, my appreciation always goes to honesty. I always break down the psychology of sales to really two things. And it all started when I was 18 years old, and I was given this script and I memorized this script, and I basically was just selling one or two people a week. And then I basically throw the script away and I start selling, one or two people a day. And it came down to me, asking and kind of like framing in my mind, why don't I stop asking how to be a good salesman, and why don't I start selling in correspondence to how to be a good buyer? And so I kind of reverse engineered to like, if I'm a buyer, what do I like? And I broke it down to when you're in that buying mindset, which is always, because we're, as humans, we're always being persuaded that everything's persuasion is communication. It comes down to somebody asking, what do you want from me and how long is this going to take? That's kind of what it boils down to. Like you DM me a couple hours ago, we're talking about a podcast. All I'm thinking is, what do you want from me and how long is it going to take? And if you can answer those questions very quickly, I'm down to do it. You know what I mean? Like, this cost me 20, 30 minutes of my life that I'm never going to get back. So the value that I saw in this is you didn't BS me. You were very straight. You didn't ask for anything absurd. Your profile didn't look stupid. So that's why I'm sitting here spending my time that I can't get back. And vice versa, I wanted to sell you something. I was like, hey, here's what my time's worth. I didn't make the sale, but still in regard to like, I think you would appreciate I don't have some long pitch. I don't have some script. I'm the one that interacts in all my DMs. I've had 100 DMs today just on different opportunities and things where people come work with me in my company. There's, information I've accumulated over the years that I could sell as well. And it's like, I don't BS people. And I think when it comes to selling high quality people, they don't want to waste their time and they want to know what are you trying to do for them. Because then we can just get straight to the point. Here's what I have. Does it solve your problem? If not, let's just keep it moving. And you're going to get a lot of business that way. You're going to get referrals. You're going to build good relationships because people respect people, especially high quality people from my experience. They respect people that respect their time. So I think that's a really big thing.
Do you, I've talked to a lot of kind of sales managers and just people in sales leaders, and that's a unique approach where you're like, I want the bigger fish, more of the quality over the quantity. What kind of like, what was like the shift? Like, what's the reason behind that shift? Instead of, oh, I don't want to have, a team of hundreds or thousands of reps. I'd rather just have a small, high quality team that goes after the big, the big, wealthy, high ticket clients.
So let's break it down into like a super simple, digestible reference for everybody to understand, and more so even just us. Think of it in a sense of, and I think one of the most relatable things would be food. If I were to tell you, and we're both in shape, if I were to tell you, hey, I'm out of shape, I'm not healthy, and, I have access to very simple, easy, cheap food, and I think my perception is that high quality food is too expensive for me, how would you convince me to get the quality food over the quantity food? Like what would be your approach to that?
Probably just list off, the value and the outcome that you'll receive with taking the quality food over the shitty food.
Yeah, so it's asking somebody, like, hey, do you want to eat McDonald's cheeseburgers for the next 10, 20 years of your life, get obese and get cancer and die? Or do you want to fork up the $3 extra per, ounce of meat or whatever it costs to eat good quality food and then get an extra 40 years of quality life? Like, could you put a price on your life? And so the same comes to business as well, because individuals will spend years of their life, especially in the sales world or really with any type of transaction, and they'll be grateful for whatever they can scrape by with and put more of a focus on the quantity, which it works. But even when you break down the McDonald's, it's not a low quality food distribution business. It's a real estate business. So they still target high quality people because they convince individuals to, invest into their lots or whatever it costs to, pop up a McDonald's, site itself. It's real estate. You know what I mean? They own the land. So they're still targeting themselves a high quality type of individual to operate that franchised out location. So the same approach works in regard to generating a significant amount of wealth. If you are not working with quality people, the wealth is not going to be sustainable, because it is what it is. It's self-explanatory. Low quality, it doesn't last. It doesn't sustain.
What's been some of the best like advice that you've received within sales throughout your entire career?
I think the best advice that I've received, and I think it would go back to what we opened up with in regard to what did my first year look like? What does all my success look like? And it's not overcomplicating anything, and then just working doing an unreasonable amount of reps where it would be impossible again for you to fail. Like when all else fails, I always resort back to like my, I don't know, old whatever you would call it, like Old Faithful, which is for me just a significant amount of reps. When I started a podcast and I was in your position and I only had 2 or 3 podcasts, I would do 2 or 3 podcasts a week with anybody, and I would also pay people to get on the podcast just to expedite reps. I was like, I'll do as many reps as possible. Now my podcast has been around it'll be 4 years in November, and I've done almost 400 episodes. You know what I mean? So it's like now over the last year, my podcast may be $500,000. You know what I mean? But I don't, one, I don't know how, but two, I like it never, like, I have not failed. Like, there's a lot of individuals that are way smarter than I am, but just working again an unreasonable amount, working in an extraordinary amount should generate extraordinary results because everything, it ebbs and flows. So whatever you put in, you have to have a direct, like, it's just science. You have to have a direct outcome typically in correspondence to whatever you put in.
Have you always had this work ethic?
Um, No, I'm naturally a lazy person. It's a matter of interest. If I'm interested in something, then I will be unbeatable. It's really just comes down to my interest because, and I think that's for everybody. I think you've got these vanilla, bland people that are generally interested or very good at being a sheep, a follower, and being told what to do. And they get by in school and they get their A's and their B's, and then they go to college and they get their 4.0 and they're like, look, I made the dean's list and all of these, absurd things. And then I hire them, so it's like, and then they just take orders for the rest of their life. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not an order taker, and not to like or a farm. Like I'm an order giver. I really could care less about that. I like to do what I like to do, and when I like something, I get it. So that's where I would be very passionate, very intentional. It's all a matter of, do I like it? Am I interested? And if I'm not interested, then I really could care less.
So what, like, within sales, what kind of interests you the most? Obviously, it's kind of hard to answer that binary, but like what is it, the money? Is it the, building up other people, creating teams? Like what really makes you wake up and you're just like, I just want to go, 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 go.
I think it's a combination, and this changes as you change because 7 years ago when I was 18 years old, my why was making $1,000 a week, 2,000, like getting my family out of more of the American poverty, you would say, like lower class, like figuring out a way to retire my mom. That took 7 years. Like it just literally just happened, over the last couple of months. So my why has evolved from 24/7 focus on sales and make $1,000 a week to now more so it is legacy focused and relationship focused on how can I meet really cool people and how can I leave a really cool impact on the world by being a good person. That might evolve when I'm in my 30s to being the best father in addition to the best husband and legacy, cool people. Things will come, things will go. For me though, I think my foundation will always be legacy. I was raised watching crazy war movies like 300 and Troy and just more like Greek mythology, things like that. Some people will relate, some people won't. So
Were you when you were a kid, were you like really ambitious? You're like, I'm gonna, do something big, or like walk me through how, like, what was your younger self kind of like?
no, I was angry and confused. Reason being, and not confused with like maybe people who think like what the heck. I was angry and confused because my parents went to jail when I was young. So we had money. My dad had great relationships, and my mom was always has been great, and she was a nurse, and my dad has always been somewhat of an entrepreneur, and then they lost everything. My mom went away, and she got out first and raised me and my little sister while my dad went away for pretty much the remainder of our childhood when I was like 10 years old, and we lost everything. Moved in with my mom's parents in Pennsylvania where she was from. I was raised in Arkansas on a farm, and so it was just drastic change from farm, around a lot of people like myself that were, I'm mixed. So there was a lot of like, if you ever seen Django, there's like a lot of black cowboys in Arkansas where I was. And then I go to like a predominantly white area, and it's like, I'm like a darker guy kid in the area, and just not fitting in, being poor, and it was an angry and confusing childhood. But also the first half was super crazy. You know what I mean? Where it's like I was on a private jet at 10 years old, for a private wrestling team I was a part of, and cool connections there to, growing up with my mom, though my best friend was, he was wealthy and his dad owned his own restaurant. So I got this, there was a lot of dynamics in my life that just was, I was exposed to wealth, whether it be direct or indirect. And, it definitely made my childhood unique for sure.
Who are some of your biggest role models?
I would say my first and foremost, my biggest role model would be Jesus Christ, my faith, and genuinely, like, as I've gotten older, just trying to figure out how to be more like Jesus and less like a Pharisee. There's a lot of individuals that they virtue signal. I even feel shy and unworthy sharing about my faith right now on the podcast, not because I'm, ashamed of my faith, but more so I hate to be lumped into the crowd of post a Bible verse and then hop off and cheat on your girl and, diss your friends and secretly hope everybody fails and doesn't make any money, and you're the only one that wins. Like, it's so unfortunate now with all these course sellers and just most people, not even just course sellers, just most people. It's like whatever they can do to manipulate and get a dollar, they'll do it. And like, I want to be less, like, the least bit of that. I want to just, and it's not, I'm not better than those people. It's a matter of that voice exists in me too. And every day you wake up and that weak voice inside of you, you have to destroy it. You have to murder it. And I think that's where it's like the Bible comes in, where it's like you have to die to yourself and pick up your cross and carry it daily. So it's like that self, that carnal mind is like, it's like Cain and Abel. It's like, if you ever watched the movie Noah, where it's like the world just turns vicious. And it's like there's vicious human inside of all of us. We're like, how do I take advantage of this person? It's like, I want to just destroy that piece of me, and that's a daily battle.
What's your thoughts on Miami? Like, why did you move out there?
Yeah, I pulled knock on wood, an Ilya Taporia, and fell in love with really, knock on wood, because he's going through it right now. But I fell in love with a girl. We were both in insurance. She was born in California, raised in Israel, and when she got out of the Israeli army, she moved to Florida, Orlando, where her family was, and moved down to Miami. And I did my research on her extensively before I just up and moved, but she wasn't on any like sugar daddy lists, and wasn't going out and partying or doing anything like that. And we're just both super obsessed with business and building. And so I was like, yeah, let's start a business, start a life together. And now we're almost 2 years into it, and yeah, so that's Miami for me, because I wasn't sold on Miami. I like the country still, but I'm half and half. You know what I mean? Miami's given me a lot of exposure to those, like I was telling you more so towards the beginning, high quality people. I've met some really great people through Miami, and it's given me a lot of connections. It's a hub, um, and yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds for location. I think proximity is power. If you're not getting access to high quality people and forcing yourself, especially in your youth, to try to get around these high quality people as much as possible, as frequently as possible, you're missing out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. What's as we're wrapping up, like, if you had to, basically everything was taken from you, and you had to rebuild everything, how would you start? What's the roadmap look like for that?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. I made a long form YouTube video on my YouTube channel on that, Adversity Kings. But if I were to simplify it into just a couple steps, the first thing I would do is I would get into sales again. And I tell people there would be a fork in the road depending on my financial situation. I would, if I was not financially in a good position, I didn't have a couple bucks, a couple $1,000 saved up where I could really kind of go more down an entrepreneurial route in the insurance space. That's what I'm familiar with. That's what I would go down. I would go to the captive space, and I'd work with a company called AO in the captive insurance space. They're great. They have access to all 50 states. Most captive companies don't. The owner founder, his name's Rick Altig, incredible founder, incredible guy, worth more money than he probably even want me to share, but his family's done incredible things. But I look at the leader of organizations, I look at their impact, I look at how they prioritize people, and then I look at the logic. They have access to, again, all 50 states. They've got good resources for free. A lot of people, like when I was 18 years old, I didn't have any money. I sold like all of our TVs. We barely had, any money, but my mom comes home one day. She's like, Where's all the TVs? I sold them. I sold my Xbox that she probably spent a year to save up and buy, and I put that all into just being able to afford gas to go knock on doors. So, but if I did have money and a little bit of sales experience, I'd go to the brokerage route. There's more ownership, better products. You can sell richer people with those better products, and you're going to have higher quality connections and be able to work yourself into a position one day where you could, own and operate your own company and potentially sell it one day. And then from there, I would do, again, what I said at the very beginning. I would work either option. I'm doing the same thing I did. I'm working a disgusting amount of time. Like for me, I would throw away the calendar. I would throw away the ideology of time and holidays. And today is Saturday and Sunday. Today is war. Tomorrow is war. The next day is war. If I'm not getting I don't want to breathe, I don't want to eat, I want to make money, I want to win. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to do anything other than kill. Like every day, like that would be my mindset, then. And I think even now that's still my mindset. You just get a little more analytical and a little more intelligent about how you go about doing it, because it doesn't make me any money to sit down and make a sales call. It's figuring out high quality partnerships and expanding my relationships now. But yeah, if it were to start over, that would be it. It would be, how do I get this product in front of as many people as possible today? And I'm not going to bed until I do. You know what I mean? And then just save my money. That'd be another thing. Is people just go out and they want to go get the car, they want to get the watch, and then flex the material with the earned income. Like if you're getting a material, if you're getting a liability, more than likely, especially a liability, it better be from passive income and from typically some type of asset that you own would be my advice.
Sweet. Awesome, Tristan. Tristan, I appreciate you coming on here, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some serious insight. Yeah. Where can everyone find you?
My Instagram would be the best place to find me, Windy City Tristan, and then I'm putting educational content. I know I shouted out my podcast page, Adversity Kings, but I'm putting educational content on my personal YouTube. Literally, I just launched that this past week. So just Tristan Dlabik on YouTube and Windy City Tristan on Instagram.